Welcome to the first episode of Pokken Advanced Tactics. This is a supplementary series to Pokken Basics. These videos will be longer and much more in-depth, so if you're looking for that extra edge and want to learn stuff even many top players don't fully understand or utilize, you're in the right place. Today we'll talk about option selects. We'll have 5 parts. What is an option select? Why use it? How to create one? How to test one? How to spot one. So what is an option select? An option select is an input or series of inputs where you get a different action depending on the situation. There are defensive option selects and offensive option selects. On defense, there's the anti-bone rush option select, for instance. You block bone rush and then you press counterattack 3 times quickly. On bone rush upper and bone rush slam, your counter will hit them. And on no follow-up, your counter won't come out at all and you can punish the move since it's minus 16 on block. This video I'm going to focus mostly on offensive option selects, however, because I feel they're much more difficult to grasp. An example will be option select burst attack or super, where Blaziken does 2Y into blaze kicks and then inputs burst attack. On block or hit, this just goes into blaze kicks, but on armor, it goes into burst attack. So how does the game decide what action comes out? Is it magic? In my experience of exploring option selects in several fighting games, the overwhelming majority of option selects are created through the use of hit stop, or lack of hit stop. Hit stop is when both characters or a single character freezes when they make contact with an opponent or an attack like a projectile. This is also called impact freeze. Hit stop does not change the frame data on hit or block, however, it does create a real world pause where both characters slow down. This is done not only to create a nice visual effect, but it also lets players react to what is happening on the screen, like, oh wow, I'm making contact so I can continue my block stream. Armor leaves you in significantly more impact freeze than when you just make contact on hit or block, and whiffing a move leaves you in no hit stop at all. Now there is an important side effect to this impact freeze. While you're frozen in this animation, you can still input buttons, but they won't come out until after the animation is over. So let's say you did 2Y into blaze kicks, but then you pressed 8A or sky uppercut right after. On hit or block, you only get 2Y into blaze kicks because now when you input the sky uppercut, you're already doing blaze kicks, so the game can't do anything with your last input since blaze kicks can't be cancelled into sky uppercut. Alright, I've set the computer to reversal with counterattack. Previously, as you saw, when I did 2Y input into blaze kicks and then input sky uppercut, only the blaze kicks came out, but now this extra armor should freeze me in the 2Y animation long enough so that sky uppercut will come out instead. It'll overwrite the blaze kicks input. So check this out. You can see I did the exact same inputs with the same timing, you heard it. But I got the sky uppercut because the armor stuck me into the 2Y animation long enough so that blaze kicks couldn't come out, and then the game accepted my latest input, which was sky uppercut. The game uses the last input you buffered once your character is free, and in this case, sky uppercut will come out every time you make contact with armor instead of blaze kicks because you input it last. That principle is vital to creating option selects. There's also a priority system of what types of inputs override each other that I'm going to get into near the end. All kinds of option selects in Street Fighter, Pokken, Guilty Gear work because you get one action on contact and a different action on whiff because of the difference in hit stop, or because you get one action on contact and a different action on increased hit stop, such as armored moves. Sounds complicated, kinda is, but this is why this is an advanced tactics guide. So why would you want to go through all this work? Why use an option select? The simple answer is to be able to cover multiple options without having to guess. Pokken has a ton of armored moves. Actually, one of the reasons I didn't really like this game when I first picked it up is because I felt the opponent could always reversal whenever they wanted, because every character in this game has frame 1 armor on their counterattack, and most characters have a command counter or frame 1 red armor move, and I find that quite obnoxious. Fortunately, however, there are usually ways a character can attack into command counters or standard counterattacks and not get hit themselves because they have a move whose animation recovers in time or outlasts the opponent's counterattack frames. But in certain cases, your character cannot cover all the different armored reversals. For example, Suicune has a counterattack and a command counter follow-up. Shadow Mewtwo can do 6x cancelled into Psywave, which beats counterattack and fully charged counter and even CADC, but if Suicune immediately goes for the command counter follow-up, 6x is no longer safe against it. Now, if you do a different meaty like 5Y immediately into Side Strike, then you beat the counter and command counter, but if the opponent blocks this, then you're minus 24, which is super bad. So we need a way to cover all these different options: counter, command counter, and block. We don't want to leave this up to guessing every time, so we need some sort of technique that automatically selects the best option for us, hence option select. So how do you create an option select? I've linked several examples in the description, and I have plenty more, but in this video, instead of just showing off a bunch of them, I'm going to give you the formula I use to make option selects in Pokken. First of all, most option selects I use are specifically designed to beat armor. You can use them to beat other things, but I find that to be the most effective use of them. So first off, what armored attack are you having problems with? And what move do you have that can go through armor? So for my previous example, I was having a problem with Suicume's counterattack and command counter. Secondly, find a move that either outlasts or avoids the armored move. So I've set the computer to first use counterattack, and then use the command counter immediately after. And in Shadow Mewtwo's case, 5Y into Side Strike will beat both. And as you can see, the opponent they glowed yellow a little bit, so that could show that the command counter fully charged. So we know 5Y into Side Strike outlasts both of those counterattacks. So we need our option select to give us 5Y into Side Strike only on counter, because we know on block it's minus 24. So here's the formula we need to use to make that happen. Number 1, input a cancelable normal. Normals cancelable into both specials, and other normals like 5Ys are ideal but not always necessary. So first, input a cancelable normal. Number 2, input the move you want that normal to cancel into on hit or block. So we don't want Side Strike to come out on hit or block. On block, it won't be safe. So let's do something else. 5YY instead. That's safe, and you can combo it into other moves. I messed up that combo, sorry. Anyway, then you pause. So we have our normal that's cancelable. The normal we want to cancel it into on hit or block. Then we pause, so YY, pause. Then we input the move that beats or avoids armor. So we'll have YY, pause, and then 8A, because the 8A will beat armor. So for Shadow Mewtwo, I would input 5YY, pause, then 8A, which is Side Strike. So what should happen is when 5Y makes contact, it will quickly cancel into 5YY, but only on armor, the 5Y will cancel into Side Strike instead. And then if it's just making contact, then you won't see the Side Strike until after the second Y. So let's set the CPU. So I have the CPU set to first counterattack, then do the command counter, and then block. So they have all three inputs. So what I'm going to do, just to prove this works, is I'm going to randomize this. Instead of continuous, I'll set it to random. And now, I'm going to do the option select that I talked about, 5YY, pause, and then 8A. And then only on armor should the 5Y cancel into Side Strike. When I do the 5YY into Side Strike against just block, then I should only get the 5YY, and then I can cancel into whatever I want. So if you notice, every single time on block, the YY will come out. And on armor, whether it's the normal command counter, or whether it's the normal counterattack or the command counter, then the Side Strike will come out. And I can just keep doing this indefinitely as long as I do the timing right. And you can see the inputs. I input the Side Strike. So, proof of concept right there. Now I love this option select, but there are two problems with it if we leave it how it is. Specifically, 5YY is actually minus 12 on block, so it's not even safe, and on hit or block, that Side Strike input is still going to come out, after both of the Ys anyway, so we need to clean up the end of that. As you can see, even if I pause, it'll eventually come out anyway. But that's alright, all we need to do is clean up the end of this input, and I'll show you how to do that. So, right now we have 5Y, Y, pause, 8A. So we need to make that last Y safe, and we need to make sure we don't get sidetracked on normal contact, only on armor. So there are two options. The first, the best option, is once you get really good, you can just react to the fact that both Ys actually came out and manually cancel into something else like Miracle Eye. That's what I was doing here. I was dashing under, and then if I saw that it was on block, I would cancel into Miracle Eye. That makes you -8, so you're safe and problem solved. That's what I was doing earlier. When I saw a block, I was canceling into Miracle Eye. But when you're first learning, it's kind of hard to react. So the second option is to extend the option select. This is what I was doing originally before I made this video, what I used to do. So we have an 8A at the end. And we don't want that on hit or block, and we know the game is going to take the last thing we input. So we can pause again after the 8A and input another special. So say you want the Miracle Eye. You would do 5YY, pause, 8A, pause, 8A. So like this. What happens is I input the side strike, but then I input the Miracle Eye right after, so the game accepted the latest input. You'll still get your 8A on armor because you paused after side strike would already be out. So I can show you that. Hopefully the armor here. Oh, they didn't. That's okay. I'll keep doing it to the armor. So actually that's good that I messed, or not, I didn't mess up, but it's good that they blocked so many times in a row so you can see that the option select is working. Anyway, yeah, you'll still get your 8A on armor because you paused after the side strike would already be out. But on hit or block where there's no armor, you get the 5YY, and the game is ready to use your 8A, but you overrode it with the more safe attack, which is the 4A, which also lets you extend your combo and hit, and is safe on block. So like I said, you can do the Miracle Eye after that, and whatever combo you want. But we can make this even better. So say you want 5YY into Psywave on hit or block. Let me show you. This way we can do Vortex, we can do Slash, you know, any of that fancy stuff. So based on this formula, you would do 5YY, pause, 8A, pause, 5A. But we have a problem. Let me show you. You still get the side strike. You saw I input that second A. Oh, hold on. You saw I input the second A, but I still got the side strike. This is because input priority is a factor, and I'll talk about that right now. Specials with directional inputs always have priority over specials done with a neutral input like 5A. So in our example, if I end the option select with 8A, I cannot then pause and do 5A because the game thinks I want the 8A and I'm just mashing the A input. However, polka combo strings such as 5YYY have the same priority as specials with directional inputs. In Shadow Mewtwo's case, the third Y happens to actually be 5A or Psywave. So we can use that property to overwrite side strike. So now our input is 5Y, Y, pause, 8A, pause, Y. This will give us 5Y into side strike on armor, but 5YY into Psywave on hit or block, allowing us to do whatever follow-up we want. So let me demonstrate this. So as you can see, on block, I'm getting the 5YY into the Psywave, and on armor, the side strike's automatically coming out because the polka combo has the same priority as the directional input special. Whether you want to do that or just react to Miracle Eye is up to you. Just know that the last special you input is always going to still come out eventually unless you override it. So try to end your option select string with something that is safe if your opponent blocks. There are of course tons of other option selects into burst attacks, option selects that utilize safe jumps to only get throw when your opponent armors. I actually haven't mastered that one yet. And some of them the formula varies a little bit, but as long as you stick to the idea that you input the safe move first, then input the move that beats or avoids armor second, the rest is only limited by your imagination. Abrupt jump cut. Now you know the formula and maybe you have ideas for your own option selects. So how do you test them? Previously this was actually a nightmare because there was no record function in the game for like a year and a half, but now we finally have one, so here's what you do. Set the CPU to do 3 actions. One is block, the other is stand still, and lastly the armored move of choice, and set the playback to random. Then set the CPU to stand still and react with command input replay. While the opponent is standing still, knock them down or send them into an air reset. Just put them in whatever state you'd normally use the OS, and input the exact same inputs of your option select every single time. Since the CPU will cycle through them randomly, you'll know if you're doing it right because on block or hit, you'll get the safe option, and on armor, you'll go through it or avoid it. Don't give up immediately if you can't get your ideas to work exactly as they should. These can be quite difficult to perform, and even I messed them up in real matches. Sometimes you just need to adjust the timing you actually hit the opponent after a knockdown or air reset to get it to work. This will help you iron out your setup timing as well. A second way to test, which I also suggest doing, is setting the CPU to do your option select against you. Have them knock you down and then do the inputs, and you cycle through different reversal options. Using these methods, you can test if your option selects even work, you can improve your input timing, and inevitably, you'll realize option selects are easiest when you have a specific knockdown or air reset setup, and you'll develop those as well. Also, you'll learn if your option select works on armored attacks with both fast and slow startups. For instance, Blaziken's 2Y into burst attack is easiest to perform against armored moves with slow startup since you can input the burst late and not get hit out of the animation. And lastly, how to spot an option select. So maybe your opponent is using an option select against you and it looks like they're guessing right every single time when you get up and going through your armor every time like they're some sort of psychic. Or you might be watching a match and you want to know if someone's using an option select or not. The thing with option selects is if you do them properly, you'll always get the action you want. You'll always get the safe option on block and you'll always go through the armor. Or you'll always avoid the different follow-ups of a move if you do it on defense, meaning you can't technically ever know if someone did an option select or not, but in reality, you can still be pretty certain if you consider how the mechanic works. The whole reason you do an option select is because you can't react to all the opponent's different options, so you have the game basically react for you. So for offensive option selects, if someone does Blaziken 5Y immediately into 8A against a Chandelier, as soon as armor comes out, they probably did the option select. Because if Blaziken already committed to a 5Y string, they can't then react to overheat or smog. By the time they see it, it'll be too late. They have to already have input the option select to go through it. So basically, if you see someone do a single quick normal, cancelled into an unsafe move that goes through armor, that's probably an option select. However, if the normal they used has a really long animation like Lucario's Charge 6X, they can just react to armor in 8A once they see it. Shadow Mewtwo's 6X is similar, you can just react to armor. But jabs like 5Ys and 2Ys, going into moves that beat armor where the offensive player looks psychic, probably an option select. On defense, you can't really tell, but if someone is on point backdashing Garchomp's burst attack, which Ace2 made an option select video on that, or punishing every follow-up of Bone Rush consistently, things like that, they're likely using option selects as well. Congratulations, you made it to the end, and now you understand one of the most advanced concepts in Pokken. You know what an option select is, why they're useful, how to make them, how to test them, and how to spot them in matches. See you in the next Pokken Advanced Tactics.